Hey, you guys should do 107 facts about Tom and Jerry, please.
107 facts about Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry.
107 facts about Tom and Jerry.
107 facts about Tom and Jerry.
If you guys haven't, do it now, please. Yeah.
There probably isn't a single person out there who doesn't know about the age-old battle of cat and mouse that we've witnessed through the years in the form of Tom and Jerry. These two have been through it all, surviving animation company changeovers, character redesigns, and a whole lot of mischief and injuries in their quest to one-up each other. You would be hard-pressed to meet someone who doesn't have a favorite episode, or at least one they remember seeing on Cartoon Network reruns. Hi, I'm Jacob with Channel Frederator, and we're here to give you a little history on just how these two have evolved, been revamped, and continued to chase each other throughout animation history. So get ready for some silent traps and comedic gags, cause this is 107 facts about Tom and Jerry. Let's get started. Tom and Jerry was created by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera during their careers at MGM. Their success in animation soon landed the two their own animation company, Hanna-Barbera, in 1957. Tom and Jerry originally appeared in the animated short Puss Gets the Boot in 1940, earning an Academy Award nomination and kickstarting Hanna and Barbera's careers at MGM. Jerry's appearance didn't change much over the years, but Tom's original design was much more like a normal cat, including being on all fours. But as the shorts came out, Tom's look evolved into the bipedal, almost human-like figure we know today. When the animated shorts were first created, Tom and Jerry were known as Jasper the Cat and Jinx the Mouse by their creators, though these names never got into the cartoon, only into the short Puss Gets the Boot. Afterwards, they were eventually replaced with Tom and Jerry. That said, they didn't actually get their names from their creators. Instead, people around the office suggested names at a studio contest, and animator John Carr was the one who suggested Tom and Jerry. For the suggestion, he won a grand total of $50, and I'm assuming a lot of bragging rights down the line. The Cat and Mouse officially adopted these monikers in their second short, The Midnight Snack, in 1941. Weirdly enough, before joining MGM, Barbera worked on a Van Buren Studios cartoon starring another duo named Tom and Jerry who happened to be human. While still slapstick in nature, the cartoon was more about the two friends getting into strange situations. Hanna actually stated that he was never a great artist, but that Barbera was great at capturing moods and expressions even in quick sketches. This is apparent in how expressive Tom and Jerry have always been, setting the lighthearted tone for the shorts and all other incarnations of the two afterwards. The Cat and Mouse, Tom and Jerry, finally had their own original movie break in 1992 with their first feature-length film, Tom and Jerry the Movie, which came out on January 1st, 1992. Barbera oversaw the project as a creative consultant. They didn't get another full-length film until 9 years later in 2001, when Tom and Jerry The Magic Ring was released direct-to-DVD. They've had 13 direct-to-DVD movie releases total. The classic MGM Roaring Lion logo got a little revamp in 1965 when Tom did the honor of giving his own noble meow after the lion's roar as a way to promote the cartoons. The Cat and Mouse duo haven't always been at each other's throats. The 1945 film Anchors Away, starring Frank Sinatra, featured a mix of live action and animation involving Jerry as a depressed king and Tom as his servant. It takes the lighthearted Gene Kelly to show King Jerry that all you need to be happy is to dance. The animation sequence in Anchors Away originally intended to star Mickey Mouse as the cartoon King Mouse for the dance scene. However, Walt Disney denied their request to use Mickey, so MGM brought in their own solution in the form of Jerry the Mouse. The Cat and Mouse once again hit the big screen in another combination of live action and animation in 1953's Dangerous When Wet, where the duo got to share the screen with actress Esther Williams. In the film, Esther has a dream that she's swimming underwater with Tom and Jerry. Unfortunately, Tom and Jerry's success was not enough for the duo despite having their shorts featured before MGM's feature-length films. In 1957, the company decided to abruptly close their animation studio, believing that it wasn't making enough money to cover the resources of making the cartoons. This ushered in the Hanna-Barbera era, try saying that 3 times fast, where the two creators started their own animation company. Hanna-Barbera liked the idea of mice outsmarting cats so much that in 1958 they added a segment to the Huckleberry Hound show entitled Pixie, Dixie, and Mr. Jinx. While all three could talk, and while all of their hijinks were less frantic than Tom's, there was a clear influence from their older work. After the Hanna-Barbera era of Tom and Jerry cartoons, there was a brief period where 13 episodes of the show were actually animated in Czechoslovakia. This was known as the Gene Deitch period, as he was the head animator who had been contacted by MGM to head the project. This era of the series, that lasted from 1960 to 1961, was met with mixed reviews. Ironically enough, Gene Deitch wasn't the biggest fan of Tom and Jerry himself, finding the cartoons to be unnecessarily violent and racist. His team had never seen the show or even knew how to draw the duo. That's pretty high stakes for the studio that has to animate them right after the success of the original era. If the Gene Deitch era's models of Tom and Jerry looked a little off compared to the Hanna-Barbera original, well, it was because Deitch was doing most of the work. Apparently, the Czech animators had trouble keeping the two on model, especially since they used a different type of paper, which left Deitch having to draw every key pose for the 13 episodes he worked on. Deitch had a lot of work to do on a very low budget, so he ended up doing his own music scoring, sound effects, and voice acting. And this is in addition to all the writing and drawing he did for the show. For all the work he put into Tom and Jerry as a series, Deitch still received death threats after the episodes were released. Some fans were furious over the changes to their beloved cat and mouse duo. Tom's owner from the original Hanna-Barbera era was a controversial black maid nicknamed Mammy Two Shoes, and you only ever saw her from the waist down. She always scolded Tom for messing up her house in his pursuit of Jerry. This racist portrayal was scrapped when Gene Deitch directed the show in the 60s and was replaced by an aggressive white owner who punished Tom severely for his misgivings. 1963 ushered in the next era of Tom and Jerry, headed by Chuck Jones. However, unlike Deitch, who tried to stay with the original Hanna-Barbera character models, Jones revamped the Tom and Jerry designs for his own vision of the pair. Chuck Jones had originally been an animator at Warner Brothers for over 30 years, where he worked on Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies as a director. He was eventually fired from Warner Brothers Studios in 1962. Jones went on to create SIB Productions, which was then contacted by MGM to work on a new slew of Tom and Jerry cartoons directly after the Deitch era. They created 34 episodes of the series, and MGM soon purchased SIB, coming full circle and once again owning an animation company that produced new Tom and Jerry content. Guess they couldn't let the pair go. Unfortunately, history once again repeated itself. MGM closed down the animation studio in 1970 after not having an animated short released since 1968. Tom and Jerry, despite the success of the studio, were in limbo again for the time being. What success was that, you may ask? Well, it included the hit TV specials How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 1966 and Horton Hears a Who in 1970. You may notice that during this era, Tom and the Grinch both had very similar faces when they were scheming something evil. Hanna-Barbera once again took the reins on their series, bringing it back as The Tom and Jerry Show. 6 new episodes were shown in 1975 with a total of 48 segments. It aired on Saturday mornings as a 1-hour show with 5 segments, 3 belonging to Tom and Jerry and the other 2 segments belonging to the Hanna-Barbera character Grape Ape. The new cartoon featured Jerry sporting a red bow tie and being friends with Tom, usually tackling an issue they both had together. It was different from the normal cat and mouse chase, but due to ABC's family viewing time policy, the slapstick violence between the two had to be taken out in order to air. 1980 brought around the next era of Tom and Jerry cartoons, which harkened back to the over-the-top violent comedy of the older series. The two were no longer friends, once again trying to one-up each other in their cat and mouse chase. These episodes aired on CBS on Saturday mornings from 1980 to 1982 and were half an hour long. They were made up of 2 7-minute Tom and Jerry episodes and 1 droopy dog segment in between. In 1986, MGM was sold to Ted Turner, who ended up selling the company a few months later. Turner still had the rights to many of the pre-1986 MGM cartoons, including the rights to Tom and Jerry. This is how a lot of 90s kids got to know the cartoon duo growing up, as it started to appear on Cartoon Network and Boomerang, both Turner-run stations. Many of the Tom and Jerry shorts we see on Cartoon Network and Boomerang are actually known as theatrical cartoons, as most were shown by MGM before their feature-length films. Ted Turner decided to broadcast them on television once he owned the rights. Turner didn't stop there, though. Wanting to be the premier cartoon channel owner and operator, the Turner Broadcasting System bought Hanna-Barbera Productions in 1991, gaining full rights to Tom and Jerry and the rest of the Hanna-Barbera cartoon family. This is ultimately what helped launch Cartoon Network. With Cartoon Network's list of TV shows growing, a lot of Hanna-Barbera productions were starting to fall to the wayside to make room for newer media. In 2000, the Boomerang channel was created to house all of Hanna-Barbera's works on one channel for anyone who needed that fix. It became the official home of Tom and Jerry and the rest of the crew. The third Hanna-Barbera presented incarnation of Tom and Jerry came with the strange 90s fad of making baby versions of everyone. There were the Flintstone Kids, Muppet Babies, a pup named Scooby-Doo, and of course, Tom and Jerry came back for the aptly named Tom and Jerry Kids. They still ran around and chased each other, only this time as children. Other characters who had shown up in older Tom and Jerry versions, such as Spike the neighborhood dog and his son Tyke, once again made appearances as next-door neighbors. For a long time, Tom and Jerry Kids was the last bit of new content on television for the two animals, up until Boomerang released an original short, Tom and Jerry the Mansion Cat, on April 8th, 2001, which played every hour on the hour for a whole day as a celebration of Boomerang's 1-year anniversary. It also featured Joseph Barbera as the voice of the rich mansion owner. 78 new segments soon followed over 2 seasons of Tom and Jerry Tales, which ran from 2006 to 2008 as a Warner Brothers property that aired on the CW. Much like the older series, these episodes consisted of shorts that involved a conflict breaking out between between the two which led to escalating slapstick and cartoonish violence, attempting to be more like the original show. Warner Brothers brought the cat and mouse back again in 2014 with a bold new approach to the coloring and design of the cast. Once again, Spike makes an appearance as the disgruntled neighborhood dog and nemesis to Tom. This new series was meant to visually stand out compared to the other incarnations of the series, and is currently the latest version of the show, until someone comes along and makes another version, which wouldn't be very surprising. Jay Bastian, VP and General Manager at Warner Brothers, believes that the appeal of Tom and Jerry comes from the strong sense of sibling rivalry that never gets old no matter what age. We aren't supposed to see Tom as simply a hungry cat attempting to catch his dinner, but someone who wants to outshine Jerry, and vice versa. This appeal seems to be why the series is so timeless, and why it continues to come back for a new audience every couple of years. Plus, the crazy antics are also entertaining no matter what age. Jay Bastian has said that with a PG rating and flash animation, his team tried very hard to encapsulate the feel of the older Tom and Jerry cartoons. They aren't looking to push the envelope necessarily, but want to be able to show the comedic chaos from the older works while at the same time still give the kids of today something new. A more recent DVD movie involves the duo meeting another Hanna-Barbera character. That's 2015's Spy Quest, in which Tom and Jerry meet Johnny Quest. We can't bring up Tom and Jerry without the influences it's had on animation, from imitations to references. Did you know there was a knockoff cartoon in 1955 called Herman and Catnip? It had a pretty catchy theme song, but the show didn't really stick around in the way Tom and Jerry obviously did. It came from theatrical shorts created by famous studios in the 40s that were distributed by Paramount Pictures and later sold to UM&M TV Corporation. Tom and Jerry couldn't just be contained to the TV or movie screen. They also made appearances in the 1949 comic Our Gang alongside the Little Rascals. Seems fitting for the wacky, antics-driven duo. In all, they appeared in 20 issues of the comic series. And let's not forget about video games either. The two had a few spin-off games as well. Their first was a PC game released in 1990 titled Yankee Doodle Catastrophe, followed by Tom and Jerry and Tuffy for the NES in 1991. The comedy duo also seemed to be the perfect fit for the fighting game franchise Darkstalkers, which used Disney color schemes and Tom and Jerry animations as reference for the game's character sprites. While only 2 issues long, the Italian comic Squeak the Mouse was a parody much like Itchy and Scratchy of Simpsons fame. The comic involved a rivalry between a cat and mouse, and the violence was way over the top and gruesome. And people thought the original cartoon was violent. This might even beat Itchy and Scratchy. No, not even that. This comic gives Happy Tree Friends a run for its money. Apparently there's a correlation between people who enjoy Tom and Jerry and also golf? It's an odd combo, but there's a surprising number of golf-related Tom and Jerry memorabilia out there. Before releasing music under their actual names, Simon and Garfunkel went by the band name Tom and Jerry in 1957 and released their first single, Hey Schoolgirl. But their reasoning was not quite related to the cat and mouse. Art Garfunkel liked math and so gave himself the stage name Tom Graph, also because he used to keep track of the chart positions of his favorite pop songs on graph paper. Meanwhile, Paul Simon dated a girl named Sue Landis, so gave himself the stage name of Jerry Landis. So together, they became Tom and Jerry. The influence of Tom and Jerry in the musical world doesn't stop there. Famous Philharmonics pianist Long Long said that the episode The Cat Concerto was what actually inspired him to take up the piano. He saw it at 2.5 years old, and the piece that Tom and Jerry played was enough to motivate him to learn the piano himself. Musical-themed episodes of the show seem to be the most well-known and liked of the series. The top 2 episodes by popular vote on Ranker.com are The Cat Concerto, which involves Jerry messing up Tom's piano solo, and of course, Solid Serenade, which has Tom playing music to impress a pretty female cat, and that music disturbs Jerry's sleep. Tom not only screeches, howls, and talks, he sings too, usually in hopes of impressing a crush. Haven't we all been there? He really hams it up in episodes such as the previously mentioned Solid Serenade and Texas Tom in order to impress the cute lady cats. The song from Solid Serenade, called Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby, was originally written and performed by Louis Jordan, but in the episode was performed by Ira Buck Woods. If you find the music of Tom and Jerry catchy, we have Scott Bradley to thank for composing the music for many episodes. He's also composed a large number of Tex Avery cartoon scores. The influence of the music from the show spreads to even the metal scene. One heavy metal artist, Sammy Shred, rescored the episode T for Two, even adding in some of the sound effects in his homage to the MGM short. Tom and Jerry have appeared in advertising in Japan as well, including an extremely bizarre Japanese refrigerator commercial starring the cat and mouse and talking beer cans? And let's definitely not forget to mention that in 2011, Argentina Argentina had an entire live musical production based on these two frenemies, and yes, it involved some very interesting costume choices. Hopefully these next costuming choices are a little less terrifying than those of the Argentinian stage play, but we might be seeing some Tom and Jerry mascots running around Abu Dhabi soon. Warner Brothers has plans to open a theme park in 2018 that will use their Hanna-Barbera properties as a theme. We may have some Tom and Jerry thrill rides in the future. The two can also be seen getting a little neo-expressionist in the works of Robert Comas, a French artist who has depicted Tom and Jerry in some of his works. Tom and Jerry are of course undeniably popular characters, but a few others stuck out enough to have spin-off shorts of their own. Spike, the neighborhood dog who always seemed to cause Tom trouble, along with his son Tyke, had two spin-off shorts released in 1957 called Given Tyke and Scat Cats. Giles Pilbrow, producer of Britain's satirical animation 2D TV, passionately stated that the influence of Tom and Jerry is so widespread that it's nearly impossible not to notice. With all these references in modern media, it's obvious just how much the world is taken from these two. Unfortunately, there's a bit of criticism and controversy in Tom and Jerry as well due to some of its racist content. Mammy Two Shoes is one large example of this, but there have been moments of blackface and appropriation of indigenous people as part of gags, as well as stereotypes of Asian and Latino people. A lot of these episodes did not air on Cartoon Network for this reason. While some complained of the racist content, others did not like the violence in the show. Ambassador Salah Abdel Sadek, head of Egypt's State of Information Service, believes that the violence in the cartoon is a clear influence in normalizing real-life violence. Tom and Jerry is still popular amongst children in the Middle East, and he believes that it makes the children more prone to violent behavior. Victor Hugo Bolaños, author of Impacto de la Gran Prensa, The Impact of the Press, also credits cartoons like Tom and Jerry as the reason children learn how to deceive each other instead of healthily confront their problems. While the violence in the cartoon had to be taken out in the 70s in order for Hanna-Barbera to air the new show on ABC, people fought for the repeal of the family viewing policy and censorship on what was allowed to air on television, and it was eventually deemed unconstitutional due to the First Amendment. Some people weren't so happy with the references to cigars and smoking throughout the episodes. Ofcom, or the Office of Communications, a regulator of broadcasting, wanted Turner to edit any parts where smoking was glamorized. Turner Broadcasting agreed to edit out all instances that seemed to condone smoking, but believed that editing out all smoking references in general would affect the value of the animation, and so left some in. The UK, however, banned all scenes in which Tom and Jerry were smoking in August of 2006. Ironically, a 2004 poll in the UK showcased Tom and Jerry as the #1 most watched cartoon by adults. The two have always had a universal appeal no matter the age. While several episodes have been altered from their original 4 TV airings, either to edit out smoking, anything that seemed too violent, or anything that could be seen as blackface and other racist effigies, most DVD versions kept the original content. The Tom and Jerry shorts of the MGM era were worked on by Hollywood's first black animator, Frank Braxton. He also worked on George of the Jungle and The Bullwinkle Show. Braxton was the first black animator to be hired at both Warner Brothers and Disney, blazing the trail for the next generation. Disney animation artist Floyd Norman said that, quote, "He was our Jackie Robinson." Tom and Jerry has won 7 times for Best Short at the Academy Awards, more than any other character-based theatrical animated series. While mostly silent, there are a few episodes where Tom speaks, usually for comedic effect, such as the haunting way he says, Tom has had 20 English voice actors over the years. That's a lot for a cat that barely talks, and 4 of them were just for the MGM shorts. One of them is one we all know, the famous Tom Kenny, aka SpongeBob, aka the Ice King, aka Spyro. Jerry, on the other hand, has had 11 voice actors, which includes video games as well. John DiMaggio, whom you may know as Bender Bending Rodriguez or Jake the Dog, voiced Monster Jerry in the 2002 video game Tom and Jerry in War of the Whiskers. William Hanna himself voiced Tom and Jerry in the episode The Lonesome Mouse. This episode involves Jerry finally getting his wish of having Tom kicked out, but ultimately finds his life without the cat boring. The Lonesome Mouse is the 10th episode of the MGM shorts and breaks away from the hyper-violent aspect of the original cartoon, reflecting on Jerry's need for Tom more than the usual slapstick adventures. The pair's whole dynamic is explained in that episode as a voice tells Jerry, "You can't live with him, but it's no fun without him." Only one episode, The Yankee Doodle Mouse, aired in 1943, has overtly political messages as a reflection of the time period Tom and Jerry first came out in, and it's considered a wartime cartoon due to all the references to war. There's also the speculation that John Carr named the two Tom and Jerry after the old World War I slang for a Tommy, a British soldier, and a Jerry, a German soldier. While this may simply be a coincidence, it does tie into the Yankee Doodle Mouse short, though the Tom and Jerry was also the name of a cocktail at the time. Ironically enough, Tom and Jerry was also a colloquial term used in England to describe rowdy, riotous drunkards in the 1800s, derived from the book Tom and Jerry's Life in London by Pierce Egan. Did you know that Barbera was originally a banker? Collier's magazine was the first to publish his cartoons, and he went on to switch his career soon after. To think what would happen if he continued at the bank instead of pursuing art. Barbera once wrote a fan letter to Walt Disney, who actually responded back to him saying he would call him during a New York trip. Disney never ended up making the call, but Barbera still enjoyed the art of animation and began taking drawing classes. William Hanna, on the other hand, worked as a structural engineer with no formal training in animation, but his enthusiasm to learn led him to getting more work in the field. Before the MGM animation studio was open, Hanna worked under the Harman Ising studio, led by Hugh Hammond and Rudolph Ising. Hanna, meanwhile, worked as a janitor and cell washer. However, Ising started to give Hanna more work until he became the lead of the inking and painting department. When the MGM cartoon studio opened, Barbera went there from Terrytoon, while Hanna moved over once the contract MGM had with Harman Ising was terminated. Since Hanna didn't have much confidence in his drawings, he teamed up with Barbera under the teachings of good old Rudy Ising in order to bounce off each other's strengths. This would lead to several years together working on the series we all know and love. Though it was a joint effort amongst the three of them, Ising was originally given sole credit in the first Tom and Jerry short, Puss Gets the Boot, but Hanna and Barbera went on to work almost exclusively on Tom and Jerry shorts for MGM afterwards. One thing that Tom and Jerry has always been known for is the comedic timing of the gags. This was a specialty amongst Hanna and Barbera. Hanna was excellent at timing, and Barbera was great at hitting home the gags. These two were extremely precise about using this method to keep the comedy punchy and strong, usually making the other animators on their team redo scenes to enhance said timing or make stronger character expressions. They had originally brought their idea for the cat and mouse duo to Fred Quimby, who was the head of the animation department at the time. After he retired in 1956, Hanna and Barbera became in charge of MGM's animation department for 20 years. Fred Quimby was initially hesitant to greenlight Tom and Jerry as MGM shorts. The premise of a cat chasing a mouse seemed unoriginal to him. Little did he know just how huge of an impact these two would be. Quimby even told them to take tips from the opening animation of the show I Love Lucy, not knowing that Hanna and Barbera had actually helped to animate that very opening sequence behind Quimby's back. Barbera explained, saying, quote, "Quimby called us down. He said, 'Fellas, if you want to see the best stuff in animation, watch I Love Lucy.' But we didn't say a word." It wasn't until they set out on their own that they decided to tackle cartoons for television instead of the shorts they were originally creating for film. Hanna-Barbera was their answer to bringing cartoons to the small screen. Due to their diligence and dedication to animation, in 1991 the two were elected into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. Prior to that, the two had won 80 Emmys total, including the Governor's Award of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in 1988. In fact, the two would be responsible for producing almost 2/3 of the cartoons aired on Saturday mornings in a single year. People definitely got used to seeing Tom, Jerry, and a whole range of Hanna-Barbera characters every weekend. September 25th, 2017 will mark the 52nd anniversary of Tom and Jerry's debut on CBS, where the majority of cartoons that aired on Saturday had the Hanna-Barbera logo. Sadly, Hanna and Barbera have both passed, Hanna in 2001 and Barbera in 2006. They will always be remembered as extremely important figures in the animation world, and Tom and Jerry continue to live on in their honor. The latest TV rendition of The Cat and Mouse is Cartoon Network's 2014 The Tom and Jerry Show, and the last film appearance was 2016's direct-to-DVD movie Tom and Jerry Back to Oz. There's a rumor that there might be a new Tom and Jerry film in the works to come out in theaters, not just in the normal straight-to-DVD format. In 2013, the John Wilson Orchestra played a tribute to Scott Bradley and the many songs he scored for the Tom and Jerry shorts. It involved lots of jazz, whistles, and the energetic sounds we all know from the famous chasing scenes. There are a few episodes that involve Tom and Jerry being in other countries or interacting with characters who speak other languages. It isn't hard to find translations for these episodes online, but it's interesting to see a language spoken at all in these mostly silent shorts. When they finally did start speaking full sentences in the first film, they were both pretty taken aback by it themselves. As part of a gag in the film, the two look at each other in surprise when they talk, as if they can't even believe it themselves. It's rare for the two to come to a truce. Spike the dog is actually the first one who tried to bridge the gap between the intense rivalry of the cat, mouse, and dog of the house in 1948's The Truce Hurts. That, of course, ends up being short-lived when greed takes over the trio in the form of a juicy steak. Even rarer are the sightings of Tom's owner from anything but the waist down, as mentioned earlier. We only ever see Tom's owner in full once, in the episode Saturday Evening Puss, where you actually see Mammy Two Shoes for a brief moment walking down the street in full body view. Tom mostly interacts with Jerry, his owner, and Spike, but he does have other cat friends. Jerry, however, has a young orphaned mouse he occasionally takes under his wing. He originally appeared in the comics before being officially introduced in the cartoon. All in all, over the many animation companies and incarnations of the two, there have been roughly 522 episodes made of The Cat and Mouse, not including including spin-offs and movies. That's a lot of Tom and Jerry, and while some have mixed reviews, most have become well-known and loved amongst fans. Tom and Jerry are famous pop culture figures, so it makes sense to want to use their names and image in order to get recognition. Pop Corner in Madrid is a theme park that has a roller coaster named after the two. However, it mostly has to do with seeing a bug's eye view of a picnic and only very tangentially relates to Tom and Jerry. If you're the collector type, there was a release of Tom and Jerry's 76th anniversary toys in April of 2016, but good luck finding them, as only 2,000 were released as a special edition limited offer. Once again, I'm Jacob, and thanks for watching 107 Facts About Tom and Jerry. Did we miss anything? Which episode or short is your favorite? Comment below and let us know. We have new videos dropping every week, so let us know which animated film or TV show you want us to cover next. Make sure to subscribe to Channel Frederator for future videos, and click the bell icon to become part of our notification squad. And remember, Frederator loves you.